The charges themselves,
4 counts of involuntary manslaughter.
Nearly unprecedented.
How unusual is it for parents to be charged for their child's school shooting?
I'll say this is highly unusual. I would basically say that it does not happen.
Unusual because prosecutors will have to prove gross negligence, that the parents knew something bad was going to occur.
You don't have a family, you don't have any experience, you don't have a job, like you're a pup. There's 5 personality traits. Extroversion, positive emotion. Neuroticism, that's negative emotion. Agreeableness, that's compassion versus predatory aggression, something like that. Conscientiousness. Well, look what happened when psychedelics were introduced into the culture in the 1960s. You know, it was revolutionary. No one knew how to regulate or control it. It's a big problem here. The problem is, it's true. You're oppressed, you're oppressed, you're oppressed, you're oppressed. God only knows why. Maybe you're too short, or you're not as beautiful as you could be, or you know, your grandparent was a serf, likely, because almost everybody's great-grandparent was. It's like, you know, and you're not as smart as you could be, and you have a sick relative, and you have your own physical problems, and it's like, frankly, you're a mess. And you're oppressed in every possible way, including your ancestry and your biology. And the entire sum of human history has conspired to produce victimized you with all your individual pathological problems. It's like, yes, true. Okay, but the problem is that it is true. And so if you take the oppressed, you have to fractionate them and fractionate them. It's like, you're a woman. Yeah, okay, well, I'm a black woman. Well, I'm a black woman who has 2 children. Well, I'm a black woman who has 2 children and one of them isn't very healthy. And then, well, I'm a Hispanic woman and I have a genius son who doesn't have any money so that he can't go to university. And, you know, I had a hell of a time getting across the border. It was really hard on me to get my citizenship. My husband is an alcoholic brute. It's like, well, yeah, that sucks too. And so, well, so let's fix all your oppression. And we'll take every single thing into account, and then we'll fix yours too. We'll take every single thing into account. It's like, no, you won't, because you can't. You can't. It is technically impossible. First of all, you can't even list all the ways that you're oppressed. Second, how are you going to weight them? Third, who's going to decide? And that's the bloody thing. Who's going to decide? That's the thing. Well, what's the answer in the West? It's like, in free markets, oh yeah, Christ, we'll never be able to solve this problem. No one can solve it. What are we going to do about that? We're going to outsource it to the marketplace. You're going to take your sorry, pathetic being and you're going to try to offer me something that maybe I want. And I'm going to take my sorry, pathetic being and I'm going to say, well, all things considered, as well as I can understand them, maybe I could give you this much money, which is actually a promise, for that thing. And you've packed all of your damn oppression into the price. And I've packed all my oppression into the willingness to pay it. And that solution sucks. It's a bad solution. But compared to every other solution, man, it's why 10% of us have freedom. One of the things I came to realize, I think I realized this when I was 16 and went to university. It's like I woke up one day and I thought, I had this ideology in my mind, you know, about how the world should be structured. And I woke up one day and I thought, what the hell do you know? You don't have a family, you don't have any experience, you don't have a job, like you're a pup. I mean, I was smart enough, I verbally could hold my own and my head was full of ideas, I could defend them. But you know, at the same time that I was a socialist, well, I did my Ph.D. in alcoholism, so psychopharmacology. I mean, I've got a Ph.D. in clinical psychology, but my research was for years, 8 years, 9 years, was all drug and alcohol abuse. I concentrated on alcohol, but that was okay because alcohol is like water. It crosses the blood-brain barrier like water. It bathes every cell. It has polysystemic effects. And so if you study alcohol from the psychological and pharmacological perspective, you have to learn the function of the systems that all drugs affect. You know, all drugs of abuse affect fundamental motivational or emotional systems. That's why we take them. Although with the hallucinogens, it's more complex, you know, like the benzodiazepines and barbiturates and alcohol, they're anxiolytics, they reduce anxiety. Alcohol also has a dopaminergic effect for some people, kind of like cocaine or amphetamines. There's the analgesics like heroin or cocaine
Cocaine is also analgesic, so, well, the psychomotor stimulants are analgesic as well. But the big categories are pain relieving, anxiety relieving, and psychomotor stimulant. And most drugs of abuse fall into those categories. And then there's the hallucinogens, which are their whole other universe. And so I'm well versed in psychology and the physiology of drug and alcohol use. Well, look what happened when psychedelics were introduced into the culture in the 1960s. You know, it was revolutionary. No one knew how to regulate or control it. And I don't mean control by clamp down. I just meant no one knew what to do with it. I mean, it knocked Timothy Leary off to the side, sideways, you know. People who are open, there's creativity, essentially. Creativity and verbal fluency together make up openness. Now, it's also associated with verbal IQ. So it's there's 5 personality traits. Extroversion, positive emotion. Neuroticism, that's negative emotion. Agreeableness, that's compassion versus predatory aggression, something like that. Conscientiousness, that's dutifulness, orderliness, and then openness, which is intellect, interest in ideas, and creativity. You know, you might think the more of that, the better, but no, that isn't how nature works. You can undo yourself by being open. People who are open have a hard time catalyzing their identity because they're so protean. They shift shapes constantly. They're interested in everything. It makes it very hard for them to pursue one thing. And my observation is that if people are high in negative emotion, so they're prone to anxiety, for example, then being open can be a curse because when you expose yourself to something that's unknown, you know, the extroversion and openness can drive you forward as a function of curiosity and engagement, but the uncertainty is also the uncertainty you pay a price for physiologically, because when you face something uncertain, your body, like when you're angry, your body has to prepare for anything. And that's expensive and physiologically demanding. And so, open people, they flip things upside down all the time. And that's dangerous. Like, it isn't like it's not necessary. Don't get me wrong. It's necessary. This chapter I made allusion to, I said, don't casually criticize social institutions or creative achievement. I picked those phrases very carefully. We need social institutions, but they become corrupt. And so we need creative revolution, but it can get out of hand. And so there's this constant war between the strictures of tradition and the transformation of creativity. And you can't say who's right. You can just talk it out. But you know what, the psilocybin, you take one dose and have a mystical experience, and you move from 50th percentile openness to 85th percentile with one dose. It's a major neurological rewiring. It's stunning. It's stunning. And you know, you could say, well, I'm sure there are things about that are good. But Jung said, beware of unearned wisdom.